Rock and roll, and obviously this was a big one. Second one on Eden Park, big occasion. And we're going to go through the highlights now. What I got to say from the onset of this match, I got to say England came out firing. And, you know, you can say a few names, and Marcus Smith, Maro Itoje, and then from All Black perspective, Bodie Barrett. And that's all I'll say. Let's start reacting to the highlights.
Short side. He's lunging ahead on the tackle. Now Talia picks it up.
It's not like the All Blacks started all firing and you just felt that, hey, they were in control of this game. In the English, right from the start, you could see the influence of Marcus Smith. And, you know, it wasn't one of those games where you immediately felt, okay, the All Blacks is going to do this. But a moment of individual brilliance and just such, you know, vision from someone like Mark Talia. And Mark Talia is such a quality player to me. Seeing that space, no one was covering him, just takes it from that ruck, makes the little run and scores a brilliant try in the corner. And it's always take my hat off to any wingers that know how to keep their body in play when they go for these corner tries. And now, I mean, there's a lot of question marks around D-Mac and that counter clock, and just his whole resume being so long, having to look up and do the smile and all of that. But he did very well in this game. His kicking was pretty much on point, and he converts the first try.
The night, it's a great kick.
Now, look, I mean, we're already now 14 minutes in, and this is what England did really well, to strike back every time that the All Blacks striked. And, you know, at this point, the English have had, you know, really good first scrum. They were looking pretty good in the scrums. And Marcus Smith, I don't know, just while I was watching this game, guys, I just don't understand what New Zealand's strategy is around their flankers and their loose forwards, because I am not seeing anyone put any pressure onto Marcus Smith. I don't know if it's not part of Razor's game plan, but one thing that I felt from the All Blacks is, just from a defense point of view, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked right now from Razor and the defense structures. And the reason why I say this is Marcus Smith was just given so much space. There was no one around him. If you look at this highlight now, he puts in this great cross kick to Aboso, I think is his name. A phenomenal winger that they brought in for the English. But his space, and you can't give this guy space. Marcus Smith has now proven, and you know, he had to be in the shadow of many players over the years, you know, a Farrell, a Henry Ford, but he's now starting to get that opportunity, and it almost feels like Borthwick is building the English rugby around his type of style of play, which is very much attacking on the front foot, and he loves those cross kicks, and he can put it pinpoint in the right place, and look what comes off here.
Away to the right. Now the Smith kick across to the wing. Fayu Aboso, he's got it. He beats McKenzie on the inside, and England.
Now, I mean, like, from a lineup point of view, guys, this was concerning for me with the All Blacks. Just generally, I don't know what's going on in the lineouts. It looked to me like Scott Barrett had a pretty decent game. He was really trying to, you know, except for the fact that on their own lineouts, it just looked dismal, to be honest. Like, you can say what you want. Doesn't mean because I got a Springbok jersey on or Springbok t-shirt that anyone that's a rugby supporter and lover will tell you this, that there's some issues there. There's no cohesion. It looks at the lineouts that they don't know where they want to throw. It's like they haven't really sorted out their calls. And they were throwing a lot on Ardie Savia, and it was just confusing. It was really confusing at the lineouts, and really misfiring for the All Blacks, the lineouts, and costing them dearly, because they had so many opportunities on the attacking side, being able to put England under some pressure, and then just being led off by... It seemed like Maro Itoje was kind of like dominating the lineouts. He was just all over. He was just trouble stealing some of those lineouts. Scott Barrett was trying his best, but Tui Piloto, I'm sorry, man. I have to start asking, guys, isn't this the point where you have to start saying, you look at this All Black team and you do question some players? Because Tui Piloto was just not there for me in this game when it came to lineouts. He was just a bit shocking in his performance all round for me. Now at one point they go for a cross kick and Savouris almost gets in, and that's what Damian McKenzie's so good at, seeing that space also. Very similar to Marcus Smith. Marcus Smith will more look to let the ball hang for those wingers, where, you know, D-Mac is more a guy who wants to get the kick to bounce. Now let me just say, from an All Black perspective, so much better in the scrums. I didn't mention this at this point, but about the end of halfway, the All Blacks really start showing a lot more strength in the scrums. So much better than last week. I mean, they were so much more competitive at the breakdowns, not allowing England to just get in there and turn over balls. Overall, really good from the All Blacks. Generally not looking too bad. Still very lateral and flat at times, you got to feel from the back line and even some of the forwards. But one thing that you started seeing is like really their set piece from a scrum perspective working. Breakdowns much better, but shocking still in the lineouts, and that's what was costing them in this game. And it comes back to these questions. Experience. There's no experience right now. You've got Scott Barrett, that's the most experienced, and New Zealand rugby as a whole has got to look at this to say, who are they going to develop to fill these roles? Because a Retallick and a Whitelock was such experienced players, and to lose them and no one really already there with some good experience except for Scott Barrett is a bit of a, you know, a shortcoming from New Zealand coaching to not have been developing guys in that. It doesn't matter who it is. You've got to pick one guy from a club and let him keep playing and develop him. Now, Vai is there, but he's not been developed enough. It's just a little bit of the area where I feel the All Blacks have really felt it in this game, because they don't have the players there at the moment.
Before the break, Smith tries another kick out. Talia waiting for absolutely.
So we're on 40 minutes. You think it's about to come, like New Zealand's leading 13-7. They should go into a halftime with a lot of confidence, leading the game. The whole first half doesn't show. Possession was much more with the English in that first half, and that's one of the things that the All Blacks need to work at, is just kind of having a bit more patience and just holding on to the ball, because they were losing a lot of balls, a lot of handling errors, guys, and keeping England in this game, because when the All Blacks had the ball and they in the attacking half, they looked dangerous, but just kind of keeping England in this game, but still ahead. And you say, keeping England in this game, but they ahead 13-7. But that's the thing with the All Blacks. They convert points very, very well, where that's something that they just have an ability to do, where some teams don't. Counter-attack, you know, the off-the-load type of play, keeping the ball alive. They're really good at that. But guys, you've got to play up to that last minute, and it's not that they weren't playing, but they weren't holding on to possession. So allowing England to hold on to possession. If you look at the first half, really England had the most possession in that first half, holding on to the ball. And that just, with the phases and just playing onwards and onwards, playing the tutorial game as well, kicks in there sometimes, getting into the All Black half, and the All Blacks playing out of their own half much too much, and not holding on to possession, then gave England possession and territorial advantage. And those two things, you guys know in rugby, that is a combination that's trouble. If you've got possession and territory in the opposition half, you're gonna cause trouble. And it took them up to 40 minutes. And Marcus Smith again, loads of space. You don't see a Scott Barrett going up. You don't see, I'm just picking Scott Barrett, I could have picked anyway. Where's Dalton Papalia? Where's these guys putting some pressure on Marcus Smith? Marcus Smith, for all the space in the world and the time in the world, putting another pinpoint cross kick through, but moments of individual brilliance again. And the try that Freeman scores, he catches this ball above his hands. It's like almost like a basketball type move, the way he catches that ball and scores that try. It's just phenomenal, and it is a moment of brilliance, but you have to reverse and look back at someone like Marcus Smith and the space that they are giving him.
The chance for points before the break. Smith tries another kick out. Talia waiting for
So second half starts, and you got to feel after that first half, you know, it wasn't the All Blacks half for any stretch of the imagination. But they go into second half, and it was close. And Cody Taylor over a ball, the All Blacks get opportunity to put a kick through, and D-Mac puts it through. But then there's some strange call there where they say a man was in front of the ball. When I saw the replay, I was like, okay, it's not strange. I see what they mean. But it's just, it's so technical in rugby that you just feel that come on, guys. Like, why are you seeing this now, but you look past so many things? And we come again with refereeing and just sometimes them being very meticulous on little rules, and then other times just oversights on certain things. But then again, suddenly overturning the penalty, and you're like, what's happening here? Suddenly England's 14-13 ahead with a kick. Suddenly they're 17-13 ahead.
All Blacks to the 10. Mackenzie now quickly on. Here's Barrett in space.
But one of the biggest replacements that they made was Bodie Barrett. Bodie Barrett comes on, and I have to feel that, yes, this game to the last game from the All Blacks, they were playing more directional. So what I mean by directional, the forwards was going forward and running straight lines and trying to get over the advantage line. You were seeing a lot more of that, which looked positive. But from a backline point of view, I almost felt that territorial kicking was not there. This is something that I feel that D-Mac is just lacking a bit. It seems to me like he's sitting very deep in the pocket quite often, behind his forwards, and then trying to get that front foot ball is not always easy. Where you find a Richie Mo'unga won't sit as deep into the pocket, almost more like a Marcus Smith. And that gives him the ability to get that front foot ball and kind of ignite the back line. You know, get the Rico Ioannis away, and, you know, get your centers running. Because if you're always on the back foot and sitting deeper, it's a problem to actually get front foot ball, especially when you've got that rush defense. And that's why D-Mac is really good at the cross kicks, because he's got more time. But he's no Mo'unga in getting front foot ball and still having, with less time, the skill to be able to know when to kick and when to run it. That's why Mo'unga gets these kind of like tackles with the small little offloads left and right, where you never see that from D-Mac because he's sitting too deep. So you see Beauden Barrett comes on, a total change in play. Immediately some territorial kicking, clever kicking, trying to get back into the English half. And this is just common sense, guys. As us, I'm just a fan. I'm really just a rugby fan. To see this when you're watching the game, you have to ask yourself, why do these guys not know it? Like, you can't keep playing out of your own half. It's something that the All Blacks also did in the World Cup and got away with it at times, like against France and certain teams. But you can't keep playing out of your own half. You have to get into the opposition half and give yourself a shot, you know. But total difference when Bodie comes on. Bodie's ability to know when there's space and put those cross kicks, territorial cross kicks across. And also when he wants to go for the kick and they think he makes them guessing. Because they know of him, he's going to maybe go for the kick. And then every now and then he decides, I'm not going for the kick. And his directness to just run a straight line. I don't think there's anyone else in All Black Rugby at the moment that does this. Where they almost say like he puts his head down and he just runs straight and makes as much meters as possible, draws in the play and then gets that offload. He's just got an ability that I'm just, you know, last week he was a bit like off from the bench. He wasn't the best from the bench. And you started having these questions between him and Perifeta. But I mean, guys, we now have to start putting question marks around a starting player like Perifeta starting. You need Beauden Barrett there. The chemistry between Beauden Barrett and Damian McKenzie also is amazing. These two guys, the chemistry between them and how they cover the back areas and the kicking, it's just not there with Perifeta. Perifeta is much more of a running type fullback. He just doesn't have the kicking game for me. And it's now for the All Blacks to realize, yes, everyone wants to build this kind of impact team. But don't make that mistake. The Springboks did it for very long with guys like a Malcolm Marx, playing him from the bench and Bongi and Mbonambi starting. At some point, you have to realize the better player, like the impact that Beauden Barrett has, the same as what a Malcolm Marx have. You need those players from the start. So I hope they're not going to keep playing Beauden Barrett from the bench, because it's just a waste of 60 minutes of a game where you can really have a player have such an influence on the game. And that's why he was man of the match. And even though he was very modest to say, I just didn't do much, mate, so I can't remember his words, but he was very modest. You could see literally the influence when that guy comes on. And then you've got to ask yourself, how do you start Perifeta? They can't just go by the reason, oh, but it's because Bodie was so good because he came in as impact. Not at all. If Bodie was there from the start, I can tell you now the scoreline would have looked different. The All Blacks didn't get a penalty. They put that over, and at this point we're at like 18-17, and it's 66 minutes into the game, and you're like, whoa. They've really kept with their poor lineouts, because that's the only way to put it. With their poor lineouts, they've kept the English in this game. And at this point, Marcus Smith had gone off, so there was some out. Then Marcus comes back on for Freddie Stewart. But, I mean, you could see the difference when Bodie comes on and the direction that he gives that back line and the chemistry and just the way that he's under the high ball and how he knows how to manage that back line. It's very similar to what a Willie Leroux does for the Springboks. When they're not there, you feel the difference in that back line. They just give it direction. That was a big pain point. And then with Bodie not there from the start, and then of course those lineouts. But now you're like, this game's on. England has got their tails up, and they feel this is one they can take.
The All Blacks have sorted out their line-out issues, although that one's been lost after it was claimed.
Now we're like 73 minutes in, the All Blacks get this really good attacking line-out, and you're like, oh, come on, guys, just get it right. Like, you think they got it right, and then some kind of fumbling again. It's like every single time when they come down with the ball, there's like something not securing the ball and just holding on to it. That's like throwing it away and kind of just being very kind of like loose with the ball. And it was right through the game. And again, right to the end, to the 73rd minute, you're like, you just don't feel that confidence in the lineup.
Slots it. In off. Edging forward. Now they're getting some momentum. Close to the line.
Now, I mean, that kick just went through it, bounced off the left post and goes in. And it's 24-17. England is within striking distance to make this a draw. And I'm like, oh, just don't give me a draw. I don't want to see this today, you know, kissing your sister type of stuff. And then you'd think the game would be over. In the 79th minute, the English get a line out right on the try line of the All Blacks. They start this rolling maul, and the rolling maul just starts going. And you could see, like, the defense of the rolling maul as well. Like, some questions, guys, around the lineouts, everything there. There's some serious concerns. The scrums seem to be sorted out, but definitely set piece with lineouts. All Blacks got some issues there. They couldn't stop this maul. This maul starts rolling, and who else? Who else? The same guy from the World Cup final. You find that guy always in the most interesting positions. Another Barrett brother, Geordie Barrett, gets under the tackle somehow to keep that ball up. And that was, again, the same story. If he didn't do that, that would have been a win. Well, not a win for the English, but you can almost call it a win because it would be a draw, but they'd feel it's a win. Getting under that ball and then refusing them from that try. And that pretty much saved the game, guys. That was it. The All Blacks had won the game, and on the scoreboard, Razor, you go look at the stats. Razor won both his games at home. It's looking good for him. 1 point in the first game, close one, 7 points this one. It looks good in the end. But when you look at the overall game, boy, is there a lot for them to still work on. It doesn't mean that the All Blacks can't get there, but there is some serious concerns for me in selection with Razor. He really needs to think about a guy like a Perifeta and, you know, even a Vunipola. Yes, doing nothing wrong, Perifeta. Good under the high ball, all those kind of things. But not having the tactical kicking that a Beauden Barrett's got. And, you know, guys, I'm going to talk about the Springboks now, but it's the same thing for the Springboks between a Willie Leroux and a Mongazulu. Coming up for him on that fullback position, young guy coming up. Just the difference in the abilities of certain players to others. There's nothing wrong with the player coming up, you know. They're younger, they're less experienced, all those kind of things. That's just why they can't do it. They can eventually get there. You can give them the game time, but in the serious games, you have to really think about it, who you want to play in these positions. And I have to say, for the All Blacks, lucky to get away with 2 wins here. Not luck. There's obviously a lot of gameplay and heart that went into this. But at the same time, some luck, definitely, when you look at how terrible it was from a lineup perspective. Moments of brilliance. Bodie Barrett, what a man. When that guy came up, And I think this is what you do when you sit on the bench. You know, if you want to make a point to say, I deserve to be in this team, you go do that. You know, a bit about the Springboks, my team going down with 1 point. Now, for me as a fan, well deserved from Ireland. One name that stood out above the rest, Frowley from the All Blacks, just because of his goal kicking. It was just phenomenal what he did in the end. And man, from the start, you know, you could see that the Irish were standing up to the Springboks. They were just ferocious in that first while. 13 minutes into the game, you know, they're so good with their inside passes, playing the inside pass and not outside pass. The offload type of off-the-shoulder running. Again doing this, Conor Murray going through, and what a great first try. Like so quickly, 13 minutes into the game.
And Osborne sliding through. It's inside for Conor Murray. He got one at Loftus.
So the Irish get another penalty, and at this point it's 10-0, and it's 17 minutes into the game, guys. But Springboks get a scrum in striking distance from Ireland's post, and you start seeing that scrum now starting to find its groove. Really, really good scrum. Gets the penalty, and first points on the board. Andre Pollard does not miss a kick in this game. Big step up from the last game with, I think, where he had like a 60% success rate.
Set! Stay high! Huge.
Now, I mean, we go on with the game as the next highlight's only in the 33rd minute, where the Springboks get another penalty in Ireland's half. But I mean, the possession that in that first half that Ireland kept, again, one of those tales where they were just better at holding possession, holding on to possession, and Ireland just playing a very, very kind of like patient game. But again, great at the breakdowns. Much more aware in their defense of the Springboks, and the Springboks start playing much more of the old school Springbok rugby, not as much of a champagne type running rugby, looking at those wider channels, but more trying to just truck it up in the forwards, and kind of a little bit one-dimensional for me at times, like nothing special. You know, you could see Sia Kolisi often breaking with the ball, not making meters. You see those forwards trying to make meters, and it's just not convincing. Springboks are there, but just there and thereabout. You know, you definitely feel that the Irish are saying, hey, we're here. And the Springboks kind of like not holding on possession. Handling errors again from the Springboks.
Oh, penalty. They'll get another go. Another hoist from Jack Crowley. Approach from Feinberg and Gwamezulu.
Now note at this point, early in the game, Willie Leroux who manages the backline for the Springboks in many ways. He's the commander there. Gets a head knock, and he's out for HIA and basically concussion. So he's off. And Sasha Feinberg Mangazulu, because of the 6-2 splits, got to be like a utility player. Usually it would be there for being fly off, but having to come on as fullback early in the game. And you can immediately see that the Irish know he's on, and they're targeting him with up and unders. And he wasn't great under the up and unders. This point, in this specific instance, causing a obstruction and then giving away a penalty. And another penalty gets given away. Again, the Springboks also playing in their own half, not holding on to position, not playing the territorial game in the opposition half. Sounds like the same story as the All Blacks, right? It is really the case for both these teams. And you do feel that exactly the same mistakes, conceding penalties in their own half. And at this point, 16-6, now you think to yourself, wow, 10-point lead halftime, you know, for the Irish. They're looking like the team of the possession.
Porter.
Dicko, it's number 8. You're looking at number 8.
So second half start, 46 minutes in, and there's this crazy incident where Doris kind of falls. You could see, you really, I mean, guys, we can all like say what we want. You kind of can see it's very deliberate. They know that Malcolm Marx has been off for what, 6-8 months because of his right knee. It's heavily strapped up. They make sure that they kind of land exactly on his knee and kind of like, it's very intentional from Doris. They twist him in some type of croc roll, and then you could see his knee bent quite weird. Luckily, he doesn't get an injury from it. But you're like, this is intentional. They give him a yellow. Later it gets reviewed and it doesn't get put to a red, and you're like, this was so intentional. And it's the penalty, he puts the kick over, and not long after that, the Irish caught offside again. Suddenly the Springboks start playing in the Irish half, and this is something the Springboks, it's a pattern. Always their second half, their first half of the second half is really good. First half of the second half is really good. They again in their half, they get that offside call and another penalty, and suddenly they are 15-16 behind. And this game is now, it's starting to seem like it's shifting momentum.
Around the corner. Porter cleaned off the ball.
And then Porter again conceding another one in the Irish half. The Springboks, every single time here where they get eventually get the penalty, is probably 10 meters away from the try line. Springboks in all these instances, right, like 10 meters from the try line, you know, you'd really think they were going to score tries from here, but every time then ending up in a penalty and taking only 3 points. Now, great, take your points, it's a close game, you know, but if some of those were tries, they would have won this game. And it's just, you feel that the same as the previous week with the Springboks, they're just not converting, you know, the opportunities they have into the maximum points that they can get. Now the Springboks, after all these penalties, are 18-16 ahead. It's 60 minutes into the game, and you think, look man, it really looks like the Springboks should now start taking control. But you guys know, like the Irish, you know, I had doubts about the Irish of all the new young guys coming in. They've just proved me wrong, and all rugby fans, that the Irish are still who they are. A lot of people felt, because all these players are gone, they're going to start dropping in the rankings again. I don't think so. If you see the way that these young guys stepped up and the way they played here, it's still technically so good. They're so good over the breakdown. Their ability to hold on to possession, and their defense is outstanding. And one of the most important things that these guys can do, the Irish, is they don't give up to the end. But sometimes when the Springboks are ahead with like 5-6 minutes left in the game, often they just get a little bit comfortable, and that's what I felt in this game was the case. There was a little bit of comfortability just being ahead by a point or two.
And Peter O'Mahony, last week's captain, the longest that he has.
He puts it through Crowley, and not Crowley I mean. And he puts that through, and you know, they're ahead again, the Irish. Now you start seeing Sasha Feinberg Mangazulu. I don't know what they said to him half time. Maybe just play your game that you want to play. But he starts playing a totally different game. He's good under the high ball, and he starts playing these up and unders, but perfectly placed up and unders. Not within that, you know, 22 line for them to be able to call the mark, just before it, and really contestable kicks. And it comes off well.
Well, penalty South Africa.
So that ends up in a penalty. It's 21-19. Then not long after that, the Springboks, another great scrum. The Springboks getting into their own with their scrums, winning another scrum, and you start seeing those last replacements. The Springboks couldn't do the bomb squad all at once, because early in the game you had Etsebev bleeding, you had Mostert bleeding, you had so many guys get injuries that they had to bring these players on. So no kind of bomb squad. This is 68 minutes into the game, and you again, like the Springboks, not closing it off. Like they allow Ireland to get back into their territory, and that's the thing. Like, you don't give the Irish the opportunity. Bealey almost going over for a try, and luckily being held up. Goal line dropout. Springboks on the back foot.
Goal line dropout and a set play.
Just a little fumble from Caelan Blade. Here comes the drop goal attempt. It's a sweet strike. It's got enough on it. It's brilliant.
And that's where the first big moment comes. I mean, we're already about 70 minutes into the game. That ball comes back from the dropout, gets passed back to Frowley. Loads of time for Frowley to get there to do his kick. No one putting pressure on there, like really onto him. He puts through the drop kick, and considering this is a guy who missed 2 drop kicks in the finals for Leinster, he's obviously worked at it. Just a perfect kick right to the middle, and clawing back into this game, the Irish. And I mean, that means Ireland's within 2. You think, okay, now hopefully Springboks will get back into their half. Not at all. Not long. You got them, the Irish again in the Springboks half. Springboks defending, and you think, oh, they're going to try and run down the clock. But you got this nervousness about you because we've been here before as Springbok supporters. Springboks love to keep it really, really tight. I'm sorry to say, but there's been loads of opportunities for them to convert some more points where they didn't. You know, different reasons, handling errors, maybe going for the 3 points instead of trying to go for tries. It's a test match and it's against Ireland, number 2 in the world. I get it, but man, they're at the end again. Like, they've just seen what Frowley did. No one really there to put the pressure on Frowley, and he puts through this phenomenal drop kick to win the game, guys. And oof, it hurts, but respect to Ireland. And you got to say, now they go back there. They go back to Ireland. They say, we drew this 1-1. We've got our bragging rights still. And the saga continues. And isn't that great? We've got these sagas with the Springboks and the All Blacks. Now with Ireland and the Springboks. And that's what I love about rugby. But let's just have a look at this amazing drop goal.
They go into the pocket for Frawley. He's watching it. It's over.
Yeah, all good.
Okay. Well, the final whistle blows and Ireland have done it. They have got their second win.
Now, what you might see there is that what the Irish was doing, Rassie Erasmus was speaking about it afterwards, and he said it's just great coaching. They kind of make pods around whomever is going to take the up and unders or the catches. In this case, again, you see a lot of the players just standing dead still, like statues, pretty much. And you could see Cheslin Colby there. You know, it's the one guy that will always chase everything, just due to his commitment, trying to chase, but running right into a guy, like running into a wall. And this is something that right through the game that the Irish did. They kind of built these walls. But then, you know, Rassie just respects game. You know, he respected it. He said, it's just really great coaching. The way they kind of shield, they just stand in the right places to make it really hard for the chase on the kicks to actually get to the kicker. Now we can go back to what, you know, oh, it's unethical, whatever. It's rugby. It's tactics. Really clever. They deserve the game, guys. So well done to Ireland. Hurts me a bit, but just, I love rugby, man. This is why we watch this game. It's just phenomenal. I'm far out. Yeah, I thought the Springboks should really go out better this time around. There's definitely also some things that's serious concern still for me. In just their ability to convert points and their awareness to not let a game slip at the end and really sealing off games. It's something that the Springboks have to work at making sure that they really enforce themselves at the end. Otherwise, this is what happens. But yeah, really, really great 2 games. Australia also coming back with a win against Wales. And as I thought, Argentina heading back against France. All great games, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a bit of a long one because I wanted to cover both games in this one video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you did. Catch you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.